dealing with the rise of the king, and we're continuing on with that. I didn't know how far we're going to go. We're definitely going to get past Saul's death. And I'm kind of feeling maybe we should follow out King David's, some of his exploits too, to look at his life, because I think it'll be really, really good for us if we can connect this part of his life with the end part of his life. There's so much happening in David's life, and I think it's going to be a good example to us. In 1 Samuel chapter 28, we just got through dealing with him going to the what? What did King Saul go to? Who did he go to?
The medium.
He went to the medium. He got a word from the medium, and we dealt with the ins and outs of that. We don't suggest that you go to a medium. This is serious stuff. The devil has insight on some things, and God is all-powerful. Always remember that God is all-powerful. There's going to be repercussions to that, and we're going to deal with that in the chapter after the 29th and the 30th chapter, somewhere in there. But remember also, David was playing a role with the Philistines. He had been hiding in the Philistine camp. He would go out at night and other times. He would kill the Philistines and say that he was killing the Israelites. They would come back in. So he's been playing both sides. But now a reckoning time is going to come. I want you to know, and I'll say this later on, maybe not in this Bible study, but when we get into it, whatever you sow, you will reap. It's true. It comes up. You deal with it in some type, in some form, and we got to be careful. We got to repent quickly. I believe in saying, Lord, I am sorry. I want to get it out and open. But there's some things that will come up, and you'll just know. There's other things that will come up, and you don't know explicitly. But if you put a seed in the ground, most of the time, it's going to come up again, and that's what we're going to be dealing with King David. So now as we get into this, he's with the Philistines. The Philistines are getting ready to do a fight or a battle against the Israelites. Right? They have mustered up all their troops, but there's a problem. As we said, King David is on the enemy side. All right, so David is getting ready, we think, to fight King Saul's troops. Let's go ahead and jump in this chapter, 1 Samuel chapter 29, verses 1 and 2.
Then the Philistines gathered together all their armies of Aphek, and the Israelites encamped by a fountain which is in Jezreel. And the lords of the Philistines passed in review by hundreds and by thousands. But David and his men passed in review at the rear of the fortress.
So what's going on? What's occurring? What's happening? I'm waiting on y'all. I got first. 8 o'clock. I'm a good waiter. What's going on? Verse 1 and 2.
They're ready to fight. The armies are gathering.
Okay, the armies are gathering. Philistines. They're going back for review. We used to do that in the military. You're all dressed up, make sure everybody's clean, and you go past the officers, and they kind of look at you and you salute. So they're going past the Philistine officers, and then at the very back, who's there? David and his men. No, don't forget our background. David has killed the Philistine champion, Goliath, years ago. People don't forget. They just don't. They don't. It's something that was passed down generations after generations, and we're going to hear they have remembered the legacy of David. David's not that old, but they remember that. So they're passing by. Look at verse 3. Someone read, please.
Then the princes of the Philistines said, "What are these Hebrews doing here?" And Achish said to the prince of the Philistines, "Is this not David the servant of Saul, king of Israel, who has been with me these days or these years. And to this day I have found no fault in him since he defected to me.
All right. David had been hiding, but the person that he's with hadn't really talked to those who were really in charge. There was a level of hierarchy. So David comes in, and what happens? What happens in the scripture? What does the head man in charge say?
What is he doing here?
What is David doing here? He's our enemy. Why is he in line after all the Philistines when he killed Philistines? Good question. So we see the king or the lower level says to what? What does he say about David?
David
David's changed.
Since he came over to our side.
David's changed. He defected from Saul and Israel, and he is changed. And I think that's an issue. I believe that you really can't change unless Jesus comes into your life. I really do. I think the nature, and even with the Philistines, we know, has David changed?
No.
He's a hypocrite. David is a hypocrite, and the guy that's in charge, he's like, no. Once a zebra, always a zebra. Look at this last part. It says, "Is this not David, the servants of King Saul, or Saul, king of Israel, who has been with me these days, these years? And to this day I found no fault." Just because you don't find any fault doesn't mean there's not fault there. How many of us in our life have started off with somebody and they looked real good to us, and everybody else said they were false? Man, somebody looked up to him. People have a way of hiding their ways, and we've got to be very careful. And David has hid it very well, but it's coming up to get him later. Look at verse 4. Someone read it.
But the princes of the Philistines were angry with him. So the princes of the Philistines said to him, "Make this fellow return, that he may go back to the place which you have appointed for him, and do not let him go down with us to battle. Lest in the battle he become our adversary, or with what could be reconcile himself to his master, if not with the heads of these men."
Sounds wise to me.
Smart man.
Smart man. Princess said, this is not going to go down like this. Because if he goes into battle with us, he might change. He's already turned. He may reconcile with his master, and we can't do that. Because in the heat of the battle, the pressure is going to be on. So we see this whole process going. But King Achish, he can't see it, because David has done nothing wrong in his sight. David has done a lot wrong. Isn't
that like, a lot of moms and dads have told their sons and daughters about somebody that they brought home, and they didn't believe it. But the moms and dads had wisdom enough to know that this is not going to end well. You're right. And, so they, the leaders knew, they knew that.
The question is, though, would David have gone into the battle? I'm kind of giving you a hint. They're going to kick him out. They really are. Do you think David would have went into the battle?
I don't think so.
Why?
Because, regardless how he feels what's going on between him and Saul, he's still, God knows that he was appointed by God as king.
Okay.
And, he's a soldier, so respect that. You just can't say, well, okay, I'm going to stop and I'm going to be in ISIS leadership, so I'm going to take a little small role in the ISIS leadership.
Okay,
knowing that I was at one time in the military. It wouldn't work like that.
okay.
He wouldn't kill Saul because he said Saul was, God's anointed. And I don't think he would kill, children of Israel because, they were God's people. He might have wounded a couple and worked around the edges and been killing some Philistines when they wasn't looking and stuff and made it look good, but I don't think he would kill.
Okay. And we've got to deal with this whole idea of where is David's mind at this point? Why did he even go? He was trying to keep up faces, but now he has to deal with that whole process. Someone read verse 5.
Is this not David of whom they sang to one another in dances, saying, Saul has slain his thousands and David his 10,000?
An old soul. Somebody from way back when. Hold up, isn't this the same David that the song was sung about? Why is he gonna go with us? One thing, even as we're saved, your past does follow you. Yes, that's why you don't want to have a really bad past. Your past will follow you. And even leadership, I deal with this in leadership, there are specific requirements for leadership. It took me a long time to understand that, especially because all of us have sinned. All of us are messed up, but yet there are requirements within the scriptures for certain offices. And I realize this, it's because of your past. All of us are forgiven, all of us have been delivered and set free by Jesus, but your life is still an example, and people will hold your past over you sometimes and limit you from striving to do the will of God. They will. So this is very important. His past follows him. This song is in somebody's mind, and it's said over and over again. And now he's in the enemy's camp, and not only his people sang this song, but the enemy sang this song.
I feel like even when a person tries to live the best he can, and he still makes mistakes, that he has to pay for some height that he didn't get to, for the wrong that he did while he was here. David, all this he did, so the sword would never leave his house. So he suffered from all of that. Now he come over here and the women remember how he killed Saul his 1,000, David his 10,000. That aggravates things, bring the price all over. So you pay for a lot of what you do, you know, you save them, but we have to suffer. It's kind of, I don't want to get back there, but like Moses did, he didn't get through with the promised land.
You're right, you're right. There are repercussions to our actions. Yes, sir.
I think too, this is God protecting David from getting caught by the Philistines. Because if they did ask him to go to war, and he said no, they would question him, why aren't you going to go and kill the people that you defected from? But now he has a kind of way of getting out of it without actually saying, I can't go fight them, or having to go fight his own people. So even through his past, God is working out something good.
Isn't that good news? That God is bigger than us, and he can even work through our issues. Look at this next verse. Someone read verse 6.
Then Achish called David and said to him, surely as the Lord lives, you have been upright, and you're going out and you're coming in with me, and the army is good in my sight. For to this day I have not found evil in you since the day of your coming to me. Nevertheless, the Lord's do not favor me.
You okay with me?
What's sad about this verse 6? What's sad about that? What do you find just kind of troubling with that? What's troubling about that?
That he's so sad he couldn't see what was going on, that David really poured that over on him like that.
Right, because we all have been there. When we trusted somebody so much, and we just couldn't see that they were deceptive. That's why there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors, and I'm trying as I grow to have people around me that I can talk to, because sometimes you just can't see. Sometimes we can be so focused on something that we want, some ideas in it. The answer could be right in front of you, but you become blinded. because of pride or whatever. And King Achish, I think, at this point, he's like, David is my winner. He's the chosen one. But he could not see what the other princes could see. We just don't trust, it don't feel right. It don't smell right. And we've got to have a sense of discernment. As Christians, we got to pray. Because there's some situation we get in, it just don't feel right. And I have to deal with a lot of those things. I can't tell you why, it's just not feeling right to me right now. And we need to slow this down, and we need to seek the face of the Lord. And these princes are like, this is not right. We see that something's going to go down wrong. And it's true. David has been bad ever since he moved in. Deacon Kelly. Any other comments? Look at this next verse, verse 7. Someone read it, please.
Therefore return now and go in peace, that you may not displease the Lord with the Philistines.
All right. Princes, they don't have favor with you. We need you to go back to where you've been standing. All right? Return. If you stay here, something bad is going to happen. And you're taking down the morale of all the troops. All right? So David is playing both of these roles. Verse 8, someone read, please.
So David said to Achish, but what have I done? And to this day, what have you found in your servant as long as I have been with you, that I may not go and fight against the enemies of my lord the king?
Talked about this. What's wrong with this?
That doesn't even sacrifice.
He's lying. Our hero is lying. Flat out. We can try to justify this all. David is a man after God's own heart, but he has some character flaws, just as we do. Thank God for Jesus, because these are flesh issues that we deal with. I've been going back through the scriptures again, and I'm in the book of Genesis, and Abraham had issues. He told half-truths. He said, Sarah, when we go to these different places, I need you to tell them that you're my sister.
Yeah.
And she was. She was a half-sister, so he kind of worked the truth. We all have these issues in our lives that we have to deal with. Deacon Kelly.
He was hiding in plain sight. You know, he was there and he had made it, but not only did he fool, he had to fool the men around him. So evidently he worked it out. He decided in his heart he's gonna do this thing, and he probably organized his men and did some things. And when he was in front of him, he was doing everything he could to prove that, hey, I'm your man. He was a good hypocrite at this point.
Good hypocrite, you're right. Well,
But it's like Johnny said, you would think that within his ranks, one would break, and say, well, how dare he? We've been out doing this and we're doing that. Somebody didn't tell on them that what they were doing late at night, doing all this. Everything was falling into place for him. So I'm going to keep this lie up. And then you can't go, well, why not? Why I can't go? I've been fighting for you, my Lord, the King. I'm yours. I'm here for you. I got your back.
but he's been lying.
He's
He's
been
been
lying.
killing off everybody,
Yeah.
covering it up.
Well, my problem with this statement is, why did David need even more, why did he feel like he had to drive the nail in a little bit deeper? It's like you give somebody a compliment, you might give somebody a compliment and they'll say, I like your dress. Well, how well did you like my dress? Why do you have to do, why did he need to have that kind of validation?
He's good at what he does.
He's a guy.
And that's what we've been dealing with. Tony, remember, some months ago, brought up the personality traits of David. And I don't want to take away from his valor, a great man of God, but he's good at what he does. He plays both sides. He's smart. He's intelligent. Anybody who can hide in the enemy's camp got it going on. I'm telling you, anybody who can do that, God's grace was upon him anyway. But I think sometimes we can take the hands of the Lord for granted, which we're going to get to. Please.
I think the whole thing, it shows us that the Bible is so true. We all have sinned and come short. Men are great, but they still fail and tell us, like you were talking about Abraham, he told Sarah, just tell me you're my sister. And that fall on down, I think, was Isaac.
He did.
Walked right in the same footstep and said the same thing. So the Bible, it don't lie. It just tells the truth. sometimes we can be mighty good, but we come short some.
We do. You say,
We also have to look at David's company. I mean, these guys aren't all that and a bag of chips either. I think everybody was a bunch of liars, and they were all sleeping with the enemies. You know, I mean, that was the, yeah, Akish, he knew who David was.
you're right. But he didn't, he thought that he had changed.
Yeah, but I mean, he knew who David was.
How many of us have done that though? So the people we hung out, we knew who they were. I can't tell you how many counseling sessions I do with people, and they're sitting in there, and I go, didn't you know this before? Well, I thought, no, you knew this. This place you bought. You bought the package, but we can believe so much. We can have faith that we can change reality, but reality is reality. Only God can change. You gotta remember, only God can change. We can't even change ourselves. Remember, we can't make ourselves grow 18 cubits. That's why Lucas ain't here, man. I think I'll finish. Surrender.
So similar to what's happening today. This morning I was looking at CNN and I noticed that the president was speaking to the Chancellor of Germany. What happened was, 2 weeks ago, the president of Ukraine came over and talked to him, and the president basically said that he will, you know, to keep the good relationship with Ukraine and the United States, he's going to give him some weapons and food and stuff so he could defend his land. Because the Russians are attacking him. You know, they got everything. Okay? All of a sudden, Merkel goes up there and talks to Putin. Him and the French president talk to Putin. Putin says, you know, I'm gonna work on having a little ceasefire here. Okay, so they felt that was good. As soon as they came back, he started again. But then they stepped inside. She came over and made the president say, okay, I think that's a bad idea to give him weapons, food, okay, weapons up, you know, use it for them now. I think you need a whole lot on that. So that made Obama look like a fool. What he said before to the man that runs that country, now how do you think that man feels?
But it's all about the game.
That's it.
When we see these same issues in our lives today, all of these alliances that are going on, but we still got the issue. Russia's been Russia. Soviet Union, whatever you want to call it. The U.S. has been the U.S., and the U.S. ain't getting any better. Our issues are coming out, and God is God. Judgment is going to come. Yes, ma'am.
Pastor, it says here, for to this day I have not found evil in you since the day of your coming to me. Nevertheless, the Lords do not favor you. So he was okay with David's shenanigans.
He didn't know about David's shenanigans.
That's right. That's
He's
it.
okay with David.
He was okay with David. David had shown everything good in front of him, but he would go out and kill at night. And Akish thought that he was killing the Israelites, not his own people. He was totally hoodwinked. He was bamboozled. Over and over again, David did a good job. And David, remember, we went through those scriptures. David killed everybody. Little kids, everybody, so it did not get back to those princesses or even Akish. David did an excellent job of covering his tracks.
But they had to notice that the population
Everything was so spread out, there were no cell phones. You know, you got all these tribes around in this area. He was just making attacks. He would get a little tribe, no Facebook, no Twitter, no cameras. He just went in.
that and he's killing children, I mean, everybody is.
Think about even the things over in Nigeria, Africa that's going on. If we didn't have CNN, cameras, a lot of this stuff has been going on. But with technology and cameras and everything, like I was shocked, tsunamis. And when we saw the first tsunami, we were like, oh my God, when did this start? Tsunamis have been around. We just never saw them. we didn't have the technology to have those things. When islands got wiped out, it just got wiped out. There was nothing there. But with technology, now we got all this information. I personally think we got information overload. There's so many things that are going on. So in this process, he literally was able to do this because he didn't allow any communication to get back. Same thing with Russia and actually Puerto Rico and areas of that are finding all these dead bodies.
Yeah.
And there was no communication to get back when these people, masses were killed. And now they're just finding these mass graves. They made sure, no cameras. If somebody came with a camera, kill them too. Yes, ma'am.
I mean, it took us 2 weeks to find a plane, and this is in our overloaded information. This is before people who didn't have technology.
You're right, and we still haven't found the other one.
And that might be why they were going to war in the first place. They knew that people were being killed, but they didn't know who, so they just assumed it was the Israelites, which is why they were going to battle. They didn't know it was David.
Hadn't thought about it from that point, but they could have seen the shrinking population and blamed it on King Saul, when it was David that was doing those reconnaissance and going in and killing people. Good comments. Any more comments, questions? Someone read the next verse, please. Verse 9.
Then the people answered and said to David, I know that you are as good in my sight as an angel of God. Nevertheless, the princes of the Philistines have said, he should not go up with us to the battle.
Keisha's in love with David.
Oh, yeah.
Some of y'all audience say amen. Y'all know it. I love you, David. So much. So, what did he call him? Amen.
God. It is
He's about to become Israelite.
I'm not going to call him the D word, but he's not an angel by any means. There was a hand. Yes, sir.
I think you were talking, bring that up. Is he using that just for David's benefit, bring up God, or does he really believe some of what he's saying? Because if the Israelites were facing God, the Philistines, they should have no compunction to even say anything about God favorably.
Remember, all of us are cousins. All right, so that propagation, even at this point, they served many gods. They had one God, but the Philistines, the heathens, they usually serve gods. That wasn't the issue. Even in our society, people serve all kinds of gods. This atheism and stuff, that there is no God, that's kind of a new thing. People always serve gods. All right, so he's just bringing from, I think, his point of view of his God. You're an angel, you're good. Using the idiom, it could have been for David's purpose, but I doubt they talked a lot about Yahweh, but they knew about Yahweh. They understood that. Tony.
I was saying he's starstruck. And you know, and really it's like that in real life. We all have been like that. I mean, because we all have some friends that some of our friends don't like that friend. And when they start talking about it, we start justifying stuff. Well, you know, we like this, and that's what's kind of going on. He like you said, he's starstruck with David. And no doubt, probably before he was king and David was king, he said, I'd like to be just like that guy. Now he got the guy there with him.
He can't see. He can't see again. We said this again. You gotta have wise counsel. You gotta have somebody that you allow to speak into your life to help you when you can't see. Because it's a danger. So many people go down a dead-end road. And simply because most of the issues I see, people just don't talk to other people. Or they close their ears and say, I know best. I'm the God. And basically they do. I'm God, and I'll make my own decisions. And they're going to find out they're not God, and they're going to find out the repercussions of their decisions. And we've all been there in some sense, some way. Right.
Pastor, you ever notice a person that cannot hear it all, got these all this stuff in them, but they can't hear 100% out. You ever notice they're always smiling? Because they're not hearing this trash going on in this world. And that's what, if I lose mine today, I say, Lord, thank you. Because I don't have to, all I come here is disagree with you. That's all I would do. I wouldn't say anything, but I agree with you. But that's what the problem is here. That poor guy, he don't know anything. He's just a dummy among all of them. Sorry if I call him a dummy. But that's what he is.
He's believed what's been fed to him. And I'm telling you, we all have had stuff fed to us. And it's true. I'm seeing so much as I'm just praying more in the scriptures. We've all been fed stuff. And some stuff is hard to let go. Some stuff you find out is wrong, but you believe this for such a long time, it's just hard to let go. And some of you have been forced to let go of some things. You just kind of smack you in the face and you're like, okay, I just got to make a decision. Look at this next scripture, verse 10. Someone read, please.
Now therefore rise early in the morning with the master's servants who have come with you, and as soon as you are up early in the morning and have light, depart.
And I love you, David, but they don't love you. So what we need you to do, we need you to get on up as quick as you can. We need you to take all your people and just go back. We'll talk to you later. You can't fight with us in this battle. We got your number, we're going to call you. All right? Don't leave. And I think there's another side. Achish doesn't want David to get upset. Because they still got an issue. They're getting ready to fight the Israelites. If David goes back, then they got big issues. So he's still playing both sides on this. Want to kind of keep David on the down low in a sense and everything connecting so that David doesn't quickly go to Saul's side. But the other side is Saul doesn't like David either. Don't forget that. So God is working out all of these situations. Any comments, questions? Next verse, verse 11.
So David and his men rose early to depart in the morning to return to the land of the Philistines, and the Philistines went up to Jezreel.
So they left. Seems like everything's okay, huh? What's done in the dark will come to the light. Someone go ahead and read that. Angela, would you read that summary, please?
The arguments were reasonable, so Kish requested David to return to Ziklag. David's answer seems unworthy of a man of God. He protested that he should be allowed to enter the fight against the enemies of my Lord the king, even though these enemies were his own people. David had lied to Achish before chapter 27, and this was probably another attempt to deceive the Philistines. If, as seems unlikely, he actually intended to fight against Israel, God prevented it and saved him from the shame of killing his fellow Israelites and strengthening the arm of the Philistines against him. David would not be allowed to use Goliath's sword against Israel.
God has ownership in this too. And God is in control. God is always in control. And if you think about your life, even the stuff that you did, God was still in control. Not that he made you do those things, but there were limits, and he was able to still use those things. But there is a reckoning day. There's always a reckoning day in these things. That's why we got to repent quickly.
Yeah, and I think about that, even though David slain, he let go, but that stone, God guided to hit Goliath the right place right there.
Amen.
So we cannot leave God out of nothing that we have success in.
And he comes back to get us. Yeah.
So I think this is also too a testament that sometimes as Christians and as church people have been hurt so much that they feel more comfortable in the enemy's camp than they do right here in the fellowship of believers, and that's really sad.
It's true. David was feeling comfortable everywhere though. Well. Yes, sir.
The thing that this, all the scriptures talk about Palestine and Israel still have problems there.
Yeah.
But you cannot get on the Israeli try to pull something, because Israeli know exactly everything they do. If they do something, they'll bomb the whole building. They don't show no mercy towards them, and Hamas don't show no mercy to them. So it's still going on.
All these fractions.
If David was planning on survival, he would be everybody's person.